Today, I'm going to give you an overview of the history of forensic science. First, a reminder of what forensic science is. Forensic science is the application of scientific principles and techniques to investigate crimes and solve legal problems. In recent years, forensic science has become a very popular topic in television shows and movies, and we'll be watching some of those during the course of this class. And the goal of this presentation is to just summarize some of the major developments of technology through the course of the history of forensic science. Okay, so let's talk about the early years. So the term the term forensic actually originates from the Latin word forensis, and forensis means in open court. This is a really fitting term for forensic science because it encompasses the gathering and analysis of evidence, facts, and clues that are then presented in a court of law. In recent years, in the early years of forensic science, significant progress was made with the introduction of legal autopsies. Dr. It's difficult to say, Bartolomeo da Verigana, I believe I'm saying that right, an Italian physician, conducted the first known legal autopsies in the year 1302. And although these early autopsies were very primitive, very rudimentary, they marked an important step in understanding the human body and gathering valuable information from post-mortem examinations. Despite the limitations of the early autopsies, they still provided really valuable insights into the causes of death and the effects of injuries. Dr. Bartolomeo, his examinations helped establish a foundation for future forensic investigations by demonstrating the significance of examining bodies and understanding the evidence that those bodies can hold. Okay, a major development in forensic science was due to the impact of the microscope. So, one of the most groundbreaking inventions in the history of forensic science was the microscope. This was invented by Hans and Zacharias Janssen in 1590. This revolutionary tool allowed for finger examination and comparison of evidence. Things like comparing glass and hair and fibers and even teeth. And the microscope greatly enhanced the ability to analyze microscopic details. This would turn out to be really useful in forensic analysis. The invention of the microscope had a really big impact, again, when it came to observing tiny details that previously would have been invisible to the naked eye. An example here would be that the microscope enabled the identification and comparison of tiny glass fragments or hair samples or fibers that were left at a crime scene. And this breakthrough really enhanced the ability to link evidence to specific suspects. Next came 19th century advances. The 19th century witnessed a really big boom in forensic science. Although it did remain largely a self-taught field, there wasn't some kind of official standardization or coordination of like labs or anything like that. It was mainly individuals doing this work. But there were some really big advances, and one of those advances was that forensic scientists started recognizing the importance of analyzing documents, and they could look at forged signatures and whether a document had been altered or not. And this could tell them whether the document was authentic or not, and this might link the document to certain suspects. Also came the polarized light microscope. This was a really useful tool because it allowed forensic scientists to compare fibers found at a crime scene and even determine potential sources of those fibers. You had the introduction of photography into forensic science at this time as well. And this would actually allow forensic scientists, when they arrive on a crime scene, they would be able to take pictures of what they saw at the crime scene. And this would be a way of documenting the evidence. Then forensic entomology was coming onto the scene at this time. This is the study of insects and their relation to criminal investigations. And by examining the stage of insect development on a corpse, forensic scientists could estimate the time of death, and this would provide really crucial evidence for investigations. All right. Other milestones that are worth noting was James Marsh's arsenic test. So in 1832, James Marsh developed the first reliable test for detecting arsenic. Arsenic is a deadly poison. Prior to his test that he developed, arsenic was essentially untraceable, and because of that, it was a perfect murder weapon. But Marsh's test really revolutionized forensic toxicology by allowing investigators to identify the presence of arsenic in biological samples. So if they were inspecting a corpse, they could test to see if arsenic was present, and then that could tell you the cause of death. Now, in 1835, a significant breakthrough occurred in the field of forensic ballistics. A bullet with a small flaw was traced back to the mold that was used to create it, leading to the identification of the person who bought and later shot the bullet. This discovery emphasized the importance of bullet comparison in linking firearms to a crime. And then in the year 1892, this was the year that the method of fingerprinting became really reliable and became a common form of forensic evidence. And it was also the year when Francis Galton calculated that fingerprints had only a 1 in 64 billion chance of being alike. And this made everyone aware that these are traceable to a particular individual. They're unique to each individual, and made them a great source for identifying suspects. Now, in the 20th century, there were lots more advancements in forensic science, and the technology just got better and better. So some of those key advancements, Carl Landsteiner's discovery of human blood types was significant. This really revolutionized forensic serology, and it allowed investigators to match blood found at crime scenes to potential suspects based on the type of blood that it was. In 1902, the first academic curriculum for forensic science was developed in Switzerland. And this was a really significant milestone in allowing forensic science to become an actual profession. And there was a formal form of education for it now. In 1910, President Theodore Roosevelt established the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI. And the FBI played a pivotal role in advancing forensic science. The creation of the first forensic police crime lab was within the FBI, actually. And they had a dedicated facility just for the analysis of evidence. In the 1920s, there was the use of the portable polygraph. This was designed by John Larson and Leonard Keeler. And the polygraph allowed for the detection of somebody lying or deceiving. Now, it's not perfect at this, but it was an important step in investigations. There were some further developments. I kind of told you on the last slide, I told you about some of the early 1900 advances, but throughout the remainder of the 20th century, the 1900s, we'll go over some of those. So in the 1930s, universities began offering courses and degrees in political science and criminalistics. And this development reflected the growing recognition that forensic science is really important and it should be considered an academic discipline. In the year 1950, there was the formation of the American Academy of Forensic Science in Chicago. And this professional organization helped advance forensic science research. One of the biggest breakthroughs in forensic science, maybe the biggest breakthrough, was in the 1980s with the invention of DNA profiling. This is also known as DNA fingerprinting, and it was invented by Sir Alec Jeffreys. What made it so groundbreaking was you were able to identify individuals based on their unique DNA profiles. And in addition to this, the development of PCR, or polymerase chain reaction, this allowed for the amplification of DNA. So if only a small amount of DNA was left behind, you could use this technique to generate more of that same DNA. And that was significant because you need a certain amount to be able to sequence and analyze more carefully. And so again, if even if only a small amount was left behind, maybe what was left behind wasn't quite enough, you could use this technique, PCR, to amplify it, and then you'd have enough to do the DNA profiling. Also, the breathalyzer was invented at this time, and that could be used in forensic science as well, or at least that data from it. Now, what about modern times? So in the 21st century, there have been lots of advances as well. One of them is advanced software that allows forensic investigators to create a 3D computer reconstruction of crime scenes. And these reconstructions are really helpful because they can give you a comprehensive visualization of everything at the crime scene. So investigators can use this computer simulation to keep looking at that crime scene over and over and over again. Then there's also facial recognition technology that's become available now. And this enables forensic scientists to identify individuals from surveillance footage and photographs. Then there's the utilization or widespread use of surveillance cameras. These have become increasingly common. And again, they can help in identifying suspects or even reconstructing a crime scene based on the film that was recorded. And I mentioned a moment ago, in the 1980s, we had DNA profiling, but this has continued to advance. There are DNA analysis techniques now that allow forensic scientists to extract and analyze very minute traces of DNA from various sources that we previously couldn't. And the development of DNA footprint analysis enables the identification of individuals. So a lot of these are helpful at identifying particular individuals that might be involved in a crime. So to wrap up here, forensic science plays a really crucial role in the criminal justice system. And the field of forensic science is that there are actually lots of opportunities for further exploration and study. And the advancements in forensic science have had a really big impact on society. They've helped solve many crimes and even exonerate the innocent that have been accused.